2 days live stream, little happy hour, a little dinner. We got an event planned, Q4. Yes. Stay tuned. Yes. We're going into the events business. Robbie, Andy, the boys. Shout out.
2 straight days, live stream straight from permissionless to Rollup TV. We're for the #1 spot. Don't wait up.
We'll see you around the timeline. Feels good to be back.
Tuesday, November 11th, we are live here from Tampa, Florida. I am back from New York City. That was a hell of a run. Guys, I have stories to tell you. I have takes to give you. I've got things that I need to update you guys on. So look, it should be a good stream. We've got some privacy-focused conversations with our friend John from Nillion. We've got some Bitcoin, Bitcoin Fi, kind of like DeFi conversation to have from some folks at Starknet. And we also will have our friend Diego Fernandez from Salvra, who is in Buenos Aires, in Argentina, getting ready for DevConnect. We have a lot to talk about with him about what's going on with the Argentinian economy, why they love stablecoins, and more. So, guys, it should be a fun one. We are running just slightly behind, so we're going to get right into the sessions and go straight into our guy, John. I see in the chat we've got a couple people popping out. What's going on? Good to see you guys. GM, Andy, nice to see you. It is good to see you as well, man. It is good to see you as well. Hope everything is well. And yeah, guys, should be a fun stream. Let's get after it. And why is my camera bad? Nah, I think it's fine now. Alrighty. Guys, I mean, we just had the biggest week in New York, and it was absolutely insane. You're going to be hearing a term from us more and more called the Nest. Stay tuned on that. More to come. We've got John Woods, the CTO of Nillion. He's going to join us as our first guest today. Let's bring him up and let's talk privacy, guys. Probably the hottest sector in this space right now. I mean, it's undeniably exciting with Zcash's pump, with the rise of Monero bulls. So, guys, let's get John up and let's kick this stream off. Should be a fun session today. Yeah, I mean, I missed the Zcash trade. I don't know if you guys got it. I've been working on the business and taking some personal time the last several weeks, so I haven't really been trading much. But I do have some portfolio updates that I'd like to share with you guys as well once we get started. So let's get John up here. Nillion is one of our portfolio companies at the Rollup, a friend, and John is their CTO of the Nillion Association. John, what's up, man? Welcome to the show.
Andy, thanks, man. Thanks for having me at the Rollup.
Man, your setup is sick.
It's because, yeah, I've worked in crypto for a while, and if you don't have a decent setup, like people, you can't spread the message, you know?
No, I totally agree. And I was expecting you to come on with a blindfold on, you know, like your profile.
Sure. I
Yeah,
should have done that.
you must not be a real privacy maxi, man. Come
Hey,
on, what
listen,
is this? The fake.
I'm holding Monero since like 2015. I've paid the penance, my friend.
Oh, you've paid the penance, have you? All right. Well, then you just set yourself up for the "Well, how'd you get into crypto?" question. But in this form, what the hell were you doing with Monero in 2015, and how did you find this?
Yeah, so it's funny because I guess I work in working in software engineering, all that kind of stuff. But I got into crypto pretty early. Actually, my first crypto experience was one of my buddies was running Bitcoin in 2012. He sent me like 1.69 Bitcoin, 69 being so sexy. And like I lost that in Mount Gox, so that's no fun. And then yeah, I guess I was like dabbling. I was working in like software engineering and applied crypto, so I was close to the cryptography and kind of had a decent enough understanding of it even early days. And so like literally in 2015, I was like, Monero is trading at like $5 or something, and I was like, you know, what would make sense here is privacy, like to be able to spend this money privately. Um, what I should have said to myself, of course, was what makes sense is smart contracts. Because if I bought Ethereum instead at $9, I would have been retired. But yeah,
Private
I
smart
bought
contracts. That is a
right.
conversation to be had. I have some questions on that. On
Right.
that.
So I was early, but hopefully I'm not wrong. Privacy is sexy now, and it's starting to rise in a big way. Monero is one part of that, of course, but Nillion is trying to do for privacy what I guess Ethereum did for global compute, which is to provide a platform that you can build private compute and private data storage.
Look, man, I'm calling this the return to fundamentals. I
Ah,
mean,
love
like
that.
it's happening right now. We're hosting a full event in Buenos Aires. It's about alignment and the return to fundamentals. Privacy is a core tenet of the crypto ideology. I truly believe that. I mean, look, man, Zcash is crushing right now because they've got this message that look, the European Central Bank is telling you that you can't hold more than 10,000 euros of stablecoins. The UK Central Bank is telling you that you can't hold more than $20,000 in stablecoins.
Right.
The surveillance state post 9/11, truly, and post internet has gone too far. I mean, Sam Altman is getting sued right now because his AI is telling people that it's okay to basically commit suicide. All this data is going all these places. AI is exacerbating these issues, and it feels like we're right, and it feels like we've been vindicated here. What's your take on this kind of like return to fundamentals idea? How do you feel about that?
I mean, despite the fact that my Monero bags are packed and it's good in that regard, I think it's really important. We started this crypto thing. Forget about any particular one of them, but the whole idea of the movement was this cypherpunk rebellion against the global financial crisis. If you look at the Genesis block of Bitcoin or whatever, it's got the headline from the newspapers about the global financial crisis, and the whole idea was to push back against a money system that was essentially built by like villains, whether that's the Fed or the European Central Bank, all of these entities which are, essentially publishing, sorry, not publishing, but issuing fiat currencies through seigniorage with this like inflation and controlling the money supply and controlling the people. And then you have what's going on in the UK, which is like a total shit show with a digital ID and Starmer's, communist agenda. And then you've got like the on top of that, you've got this as you quite rightly said, this like pushback on like literally telling people, hey, you can't move $20,000 to your wife or your husband from your bank account because like we need a good reason. Or hey, you can't pay a guy to come into your house and paint the fucking place for if it's going to cost more than 10,000 euros. It's insane. And so I actually see, to answer your question, I see this movement towards privacy that we see macroscopically, okay, not just towards any particular one cryptocurrency, but in general in the industry as a return to form, as a return to cypherpunk, and I hope as a message to governments that like you can try to push for control, but you won't necessarily get it.
Well, isn't that the beauty of it all, right? And the power of it all is such that like the whole point of kind of DeFi and smart contracts is the immutability factor,
Right.
right? Is the idea that once programmed, once executed, and once kind of remove this admin control or this admin key, I call them like unfuckwithable, right? And I think you can extract that mentality towards like your financial life and what you believe in, and it just seems like the world is trending deeper and deeper into the surveillance state kind of mode. And
Yeah.
I honestly don't think it's like corrupted from the top as bad as people think. It's more of just like the willingness of people, including you and myself, to just willingly give data information to LLMs, to social networks, and just like we're on a call. Like it's just like there's just this open information passing in the world right now, and I don't truly think it's that bad, but like
Mhm.
it's not that bad until it gets bad, and like you don't want to be there without a kind of plan B. And so I think Nillion and these other kind of networks are working to provide that plan B.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, some of the things I'm going to say now are would have 10 years ago or 15 years ago would have sounded like conspiracy theories from a whack job. The reality is, we are entering a world where there will be basically, and this move with cash is indicative of it. They want to know exactly what you're spending your money on, and when I say they, I mean governments, so that they can better control the ebb and flow of tax and the macroscopic financial environment, so that they can essentially turn countries and their people into well-functioning batteries. I mean, that is the truth of it. And by the way, you will see this play out because with this move to everything is digital, it'll be a case of like, oh, sorry, you can't buy that vodka. You've already had a bottle on Monday. Hey, you've had too much sugar. Hey, you've had too much fat. No more burgers for you. And and I can tell you, someday you're going to be talking to an LLM. Hey, I've had this headache. It's been fucking with me for like 6 months. I'm not sure. And then your insurance won't pay out on your brain tumor because like you asked the LLM. This is coming, and you know why it's coming? It's coming not because of some evil dictator who wants to control the world. It's coming because money is what talks, and these things will save these companies money.
Hmm. Yeah. Wow. Okay. So when you're specifically, let's kind of dial into the well, okay, so hold on. I'd like to go down like the AI route, but briefly, there's been this guy on crypto Twitter, Crypto Condom, and funny name, but
I
but he
haven't heard of him, but he sounds great.
but so he's got a pretty big audience and he's
Yeah,
pretty big chain link bull. And we
yeah,
were just at SmartCon the last couple of days in New York City last week, and it was fantastic. I mean, I'm talking JP Morgan, White House, the Fed, DTCC, Goldman. I mean, it's incredible.
yeah.
And Chainlink's doing an incredible job of bringing these institutions on chain. And so the his take is that we don't need more private chains. Like we don't need private, L1, L2 chains. Private smart contracts are what we need. Like that
Mm,
is where the alpha and the value will lie in these networks. We're having sets of permissioned or private smart contracts amongst a broader piece of the puzzle of a public network. Um, what's your take on the difference between a private chain and private money on like a existing like L1, like be it Zcash or be it a different kind of chain versus let's say Ethereum implementing private smart contracts? Like which one do you think is more feasible, more reliable? Like how do you see this playing out?
yeah, it's a great question. And so I think he's seeing some part of this, but I think he's missing two very important parts. I think there's three parts to this story. My background is like computer nerd stuff, programming, like applied crypto, applied mathematics. So I understand these things fairly well. And I spent time building Cardano. I spent time building Algorand. And so, I know the layer one space fairly well. I know the smart contract space very well. Um, Things like Monero and Zcash, they do private payments, just the transfer of value between participants in a peer-to-peer way. What you'll find is that if you try to build your layer one to do everything, smart contracts, private payments, the whole lot, it's essentially impossible to achieve with our current cryptographic primitives, deep, meaningful privacy. If you're going to do payments, you got to kind of just focus on that. You got to have, just like there's certain tools for certain jobs. You can't be both a great hammer and maybe a great digger. Okay. And so Monero, Zcash, they do cryptographic or private payments very well. But if you try to shoehorn smart contracts in there, you quickly find that it's too much to try to do in a single network, and it adds so much complexity. And it also sometimes, to achieve the smart contract piece, you got to sacrifice on certain elements of the privacy piece that you would like to do. Private payments is hard enough. Okay, so then you have, so I think that they will continue to exist. I think that the sphere of Moneros and Zcash will be a very prominent set of cryptocurrencies in, going forward into the future. Even medium term, 5-10 years out, I think they're going to become very important. Then you have, of course, private smart contracts. Now, I think this is interesting because, as you quite rightly kind of insinuated, Ethereum, Cardano, Algorand, Solana, whatever, ICP, their contract platforms right now allow you to do these discrete pieces of work in these little apps we call smart contracts, but they run, typically for only a block or a slot, and so that's a couple of seconds or whatever. And doing that privately, you need like math from the moon, right, to try to do these smart contracts privately. You get like it's homomorphic stuff or it's exotic mathematics, and so you want to try to do things pragmatically. And so what most of these chains will probably do to achieve a private smart contract, and I do think, by the way, that is a cool idea. The idea that we can do all the cool things smart contracts do, i.e. veracity of an agreement between two people, being able to program agreements between people, all very cool, obviously. And to be able to do that privately, so much better. Now, two companies can make a trade privately. They can do something. They can agree something privately. This is incredibly valuable stuff. In the real world, banks, institutions, people expect privacy, right? Like not everyone talks about everything they do in terms of business. But the way I think that will probably be achieved is by doing off-chain contract execution, and then posting a commitment to the veracity of that execution or the truthfulness of that execution on chain. But there's one more thing that I think is a very important part of this, and it's what something like Nillion brings. The reality is that in the first tranche of technology I talked about, payments, they don't do more than just payments, but they do payments in private well. In the second tranche, when we talk about smart contracts, even if we say private smart contracts, they're always going to be limited. A private smart contract will never, in a traditional blockchain, with the properties of a traditional blockchain, i.e. the decentralization and global consensus, will never be something that you can execute an LLM inside, right? The complexity, the order of magnitude of complexity of compute is just too big to ask ChatGPT a question and get a response to do in a smart contract. These smart contracts, by definition, even on Solana, as an example of the fast one, the powerful one, they have to basically run in half a second on Solana, right? That's kind of the slot time. And so, where does this leave you? It leaves you in a place that for certain classes of work, and that is big compute, big data, and indeed AI, which is just super heavy, matrix multiplications. You have to do that thing outside of a smart contract context. Smart contracts great for agreeing discrete tiny pieces of work, not great for running heavy compute. And so that's where something like Nillion comes in. Nillion provides federated and soon to be decentralized with Nillion 2.0 access to a computer which is private but able to handle the kind of workloads that are meaningful, those kind of AI workloads, or running sophisticated simulations and things like that. And similarly, if you try to store a gigabyte of data on Ethereum, goddamn, you're going to pay for that. On Algorand, similar. On Solana, similar. With something like a Nillion style architecture, sure, it's not maybe as decentralized as an Ethereum, but you can store terabytes of data in it. And so, I guess hopefully that made sense. I do think private smart contracts are part of the future, but I think there's other legs to this stool that are important to take down the kind of set of use cases that we'll need to do.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. And so when it comes to Nillion's primary, use cases are when it comes to the data issue in AI, and kind of this, hey, like I just told ChatGPT that, you know, I love, my girlfriend broke up with me because I cheated on her, and that my mom just pointed a gun at my head, and that, don't call the cops on me though. Like, you tell these crazy things that are like could be made up lies, probably are, to this LLM, and then all of a sudden you've got the cops at your door because
Right.
like, you've got like state level security ownership over open AI's, terms and conditions, and they're mandated to report certain things to the state because X, Y, and Z. And look, I get it. There are situations where having state level control onto technology can be helpful. But when it comes to like the privacy of the data around using LLMs and kind of like ChatGPT.
Mhm.
How do you think about solving that problem from Nillion's perspective?
Yeah, it's so it's a really interesting question. And maybe just let me start by saying I'm not so out there that I think we shouldn't have laws and we shouldn't, stop bad things from happening. I do. I do think that that's important. But at the same time, it's a bit like this kind of a couple of analogs of this. It's like, well, knives. You can use a knife to cut your steak, but you can also use it to kill someone. Um, you know, uh, you can use your car to drive on holidays with your family, or you can also use it to drive into a bunch of children outside of school. And so, um, you know, similarly for LLMs, sure, maybe sometimes bad people will ask an LLM something and it will help them concoct an evil plan, or maybe it will give them malicious advice. But do we ban all knives? Do we ban all cars because of this? Do we restrict or destroy our privacy because maybe crimes could be committed? And for me, I think the best example of it is, should all homes be bugged with a government access just to make sure that no one is planning anything evil? And of course, the answer to that is no. It's ridiculous to think that we would be violated in such a way. So why should we, if we wouldn't do that in those other contexts, why do we seemingly accept it in a digital context? Why do we accept that governments are going to be pre-scanning our messages to make sure we don't say anything bad? Why do we accept that Apple will want to scan my photos to make sure I'm not taking pictures of anything bad? Or will it confuse pictures of my children in the bath with something malicious that it thinks is not acceptable, or is CSAM or something like that? And similarly, why would I want a ChatGPT or an XAI? And by the way, I use ChatGPT. It's a quality product, obviously, but I use it carefully. I use XAI. I think Grok is great, but I use it carefully. And so, will I be telling my deepest sexual desires to a companion in XAI? No, I won't. But a lot of people are. And so, how do we marry these two worlds? How do we bring the HTTPS, right? The lock symbol, the padlock symbol when you're browsing the web. It used to be you were searching for recipes. Everyone knew what you were doing if they were snooping on you. And then banks were like, no, we can't have this. People expect privacy in finance. So they added this technology, the secure HTTP, and then everything was cool. Now, if you go on to browse for dog treats for your dog, that website will be encrypted too. So encryption is just everywhere in the web. And so how do we bring that to AI, LLMs? How do we bring that to our chats? How do we bring that to our interactions with all things digital, maps, whatever it is? And so Nillion is part of delivering that vision. Nillion is basically able to provide the padlock symbol, the HTTPS, for AI inference. And when I say AI inference, what I really mean, it's a geeky term for basically saying talking to a ChatGPT. So you can run a ChatGPT inside Nillion's blind computer. Maybe I'll talk super quick about this. I won't. I know not everyone out there is a developer, but just to give a brief idea, you've got a computer. Everyone's used to the idea. You got a hard disk. You store your files in your computer, and you got a CPU or whatever. You got a desktop, and it does the computation. Right, it gets hot on your desk, and so you can think of a computer as basically storage and compute. Okay, and so the Nillion blind computer is kind of an analog of this. It is a software product that basically allows you to execute compute cryptographically provably private. Cryptographically provably private. So when you run things on Nillion's private computer, you get this like mathematical assurance that they have been run privately and no one has tampered with it and no one has seen what you computed on. And similarly, for the hard disk piece, right, the data storage piece, because you can't compute on things if you don't have the data, so we needed a data piece. For the data piece, you also get cryptographic guarantees of the security of the data stored within Nillion. And so there's not just like there's not one copy of the blockchain, there's not one Bitcoin node, there's not one Ethereum node. There are many instances of Nillion globally, and we're about to roll out Nillion 2.0. So what is that? It's basically what I just described. So a global network of computers that provide confidential storage, private storage and private compute, but also we wanted to weave the community into this network, because like we have this token and you use the token to pay for the compute and the storage, and that's great. But like one of the most important stories in crypto is like getting the community involved, right? That's what's made technologies like Monero great. The community are so passionate. And so what we're going to do is weave our community and hopefully grow this community, new members into the community. So sorry, into the network. So what they do is they will run a piece of software. We haven't rolled this out yet. So this is coming in the next couple of months. And this piece of software will check the global Nillion blind computer. It will make sure that everything is private, everything is stored safely. And what the community will do is basically decentralize the work of ensuring cryptographically that things are private on Nillion and things are stored securely on Nillion. And so now we have this very beautiful kind of decentralized computer that can be used to build enterprise-grade, serious grown-up apps like ChatGPT, where you're distributed across the world, where the community are making sure cryptographically, mathematically, like no bullshit, like not trust me, but verifying that everything is private and everything is secure, whilst the Nillion token flows in this economy. They earn for doing the checking work, and the operators that run Nillion earn for providing that private compute and private storage. So it's kind of like AWS, if AWS was guaranteed to be private and
Yeah.
was checked by a decentralized network.
Yeah. And so who do you envision to actually want to kind of take this and build with it or use it? Is there a consumer facing application, right? Like a private chat product, like a private LM product or something? Is there a developer interface that you kind of see, people building on? How's that kind of
Right. So, people can acquire the token and speculate, or people can acquire the token and use it, on an individual basis. But I think, being real about it, this product will probably be used more by businesses. It's more of a business to business product. Other businesses would take the blind computer and use it as a platform on which to build customer facing apps. But just to give people a flavor for the types of things you can build with this, we took it ourselves. We took this platform ourselves, our own platform, and we decided to build something on it. And just that, as you described, we built a private AI on top of Nillion. And so you can check it out at NilGPT. I think it's .xyz. Let me just double check that. This is the latest URL. Yeah. NilGPT.xyz. So that's NILGPT.xyz. And if you go there, you can basically play with this thing right now for free. You can sign up and you can try basically a ChatGPT in a guaranteed private context. So things you say to that AI at that website cannot be seen by me, even as a senior tech guy at the company, cannot be seen by our back-end DevOps guys. No one can see it.
Yep.
So, yeah,
And it's the same models. It's the same quality of technology that you would get by using Claude or using Gemini, right? Like from what I've understood from privacy in AI, you're actually able to use the same quality of reasoning models while keeping the privacy embedded.
right. So just to be clear, the absolute frontier GPT-5 Pro level models, which are trillions of parameters in size, right? Which is like ginormous. Of course, they are at those frontier models are at a level that is even above where NilGPT is at currently. So NilGPT it is a thinking reasoning model. We use GPT open source versions with 120 billion parameters, Gemma from Google, Quen from Alibaba. So we've got very capable thinking models that can be everything from a companion all the way to a something that can help with your code or your work or your writing prose. They are, I would say, at the GPT 4.0 level at this point. They're not at the GPT 5 Pro level. They're at that kind of GPT 4.0. So like ChatGPT was, say, a year ago or so.
Yep.
But okay, so you step down a tiny bit in terms of capability, but what you gain is enormously important.
Yep.
You gain privacy. You can be absolutely assured, you can verify yourself that what you do in that environment is completely private. So you can talk to it about your blood tests. You can talk to it about your wife. And you know that the police won't be called if you say the wrong thing, right?
Yeah. And so what does that enable for actual like AI development, right? So like right now we're existing in a world where the data transfer, like basically, I just grabbed a new tool like Whisper.ai. It was
Mhm.
like it's like a voice dictation tool basically. So now I don't even type anymore, which has been, that's been insane. I can't believe I didn't have this, earlier. And so there was an option. It was like, do you want to give your data to help train the tool? And I was like,
Mhm.
no, I don't want to do that. I just click no. Right. But like on Claude, they just did an upgrade that was like they basically force you to give your data. Like there's no
Right.
optionality. And so we've been living in a paradigm of, let's say just call it like AI development and then extrapolate that to like blockchain and AI development of like this forced data sharing to train the models. Uh,
Sure.
what is a what does the outcomes look like where we have privacy embedded into AI? Like what does that enable that maybe is not, thought about today or even available to?
It's a great question, and like this. By the way, the blind computer, the Nillion kind of like platform is of course beyond AI. You can do what we call arbitrary compute on it. You can run Doom on it, and we have run Doom on it. And if you're really mean to the monsters in Doom, no one can hear them scream. But you can run spreadsheets on it. You can run web servers on it. You can run Tor nodes on it. You can run cryptocurrency miners in it. You can do whatever you want. But of course, AI is a compelling story at the moment. So what kind of things can you do? I mean, maybe I'll give you a couple of examples. Number one, beyond the kind of like idea that you don't have to worry if you're saying things that are salacious or sharing private details about your medical history, or indeed, maybe legal contracts with a customer or with a prospective employer, and asking for advice on these things. You don't have to worry that now some back ops engineer at OpenAI knows how much you've been offered by whatever company's trying to employ you. So you don't have to worry that might come back to bite you later. So that's number one. Maybe it's a clear one. Number two, stuff like for example, let's say you're a company who has actual very important intellectual property. That could be code, it could be a recipe for Coca-Cola, it can be like, some kind of secret sauce that you want to preserve. But you want to be able to, for the rest of the employees, be able to do retrieval augmented generation, right? This RAG thing. You might have heard of this, but it's the idea that you take a powerful model who doesn't know about your secret sauce, you tell it about the secret sauce at runtime, and then it's able to answer questions, convoluting your proprietary knowledge with its trained knowledge. And so, how do you do that? How do you create an environment where you can essentially keep all that RAG data, that secret sauce data, in a completely secure environment? And then when you're asking the LLM a question, that the LLM in a private way can reach into the secret data store, pull out the recipe for Coca-Cola, as an example, and then take your question that you've just typed in, smash them together, give you an amazing answer. But all the while, the AI thinking was completely private, and the time that the AI took the data and destroyed the data is completely private. So there's no trace of your secret recipe, and there's no trace of the questions you asked, but you received the answer. And so that type of kind of use case is everywhere. So many companies want to use these things, but they want to train them on their internal proprietary intellectual property, whatever it is. And so NilGPT, well, it doesn't exactly do that perfectly, but Nillion as a platform, you could use the private storage and the private compute to achieve something like that. And maybe one last thing, and I think this is really cool. We've gotten used to the idea that we give our data for free. Like Google scared me the other day because it's like, oh, you've visited, because I travel a lot for work and in my private life. You visited, say, 100 hotels in the last year or whatever it is, and thanks for the reviews. And by the way, what did you think of this one? And blah blah blah. And I was thinking to myself, why am I working for these fuckers for free? Like I'm basically, I'm working for them for free. But I do think that data is important. Like that data is valuable. I think that there's value in people's data, right? It can be something trivial, like social media and how pretty your pictures are and how many likes you get, or it can be something less trivial, like how you trade, or your prop strategy for trading crypto, or your thesis around certain stocks, or other things. And so, or maybe one last thing is a great example is your health data. Okay, I'm a 41-year-old guy. I don't smoke, but I did for 10 years. I drink this much, blah, blah, blah. How does that look when I compare it with my peers? And so the idea of composability of data, taking people's data, being able to monetize your data, expose it in a zero knowledge way only to certain people who have paid you or who you are receiving something from, or indeed the idea that we can take huge globs of data globally and run compute on them without anyone seeing the full underlying data set. So you can say, for all the 40-year-old guys who used to smoke, who have the same kind of profile as me, who are basically, white guys who are 6 foot tall, how many of them ended up with cancer at 50? And that kind of data composability is really informative, and that can be an incredibly valuable tool for for actuarial finance, etc. And so there are just like unbelievably important use cases for a platform which can provide private storage of data and private compute. So it's a very exciting project.
No, it's just so accurate because I think about training some of the folks that we work with, internally with regards to prompting for different copies or prompting for different marketing campaigns and such. And I just had this thought the other day of wondering, like, if thousands of people spread a lie to ChatGPT about some individual person, or if thousands of people get or one person gets a trade secret and has thousands of people teach ChatGPT about this trade secret over and over again, day in and day out, for months on end. All of a sudden, ChatGPT is trained on this trade secret, and like maybe that's an oversimplified example, but like like it is just insane how, like, you go on like Wikipedia, right, and you search for like an entrepreneur or a famous actor, and there's a biography, um but like, what if you could just take somebody's biography, create it on your own, or modify as you wish, and figure out effectively a Sybil attack onto these LLMs, such that when a normal person searches about this individual, the answer has some parts of that modified, specifically Sybil version. And
Mhm.
it's just like, holy fuck, like that is just like the quality of information is going to be a very important problem to tackle, just in the coming years for sure.
Absolutely. And by the way, so I totally agree with that. And I want to say, quite a profound notion. But to even build on that, like the internet is even more AI slop than it's ever been before. Of course, we always had generative things. You could use tools to help you write things fast, etc. But like, it's now like I crave actual human written
Yeah,
content that's
man.
not just like what I'm saying? You're
Like, you can
searching
tell there's some
something.
personality behind it, you can tell there's a
Yeah, yeah,
person
yeah.
behind it. Yeah, I totally hear you.
Right, right, right. And so like I honestly think that like that stuff's going to become more and more gated, right? And so we'll have our AI slop world, and then you'll have the world where you'll probably be paying for access to some of this stuff in the
Yeah, I mean,
future
I
because
mean, we see it day in and day out. Like when we just put a little bit of personality behind the brand content, like the engagement is way bigger because it feels like there was some actual thought and effort into it. John, look, man, I know that we could talk for hours. I hope to maybe see you in Buenos Aires. You happen to be going down there for Dev Connect? Okay, you've got
unfortunately
a
not.
product to ship.
But I think some of the team are. But I really appreciate. Yeah, I really appreciate the opportunity to come up on the roll up. Maybe I can come on in a couple of months' time and give you guys an update as to where we're at. But it's
Yeah,
been
I'd
it's
love that,
been
John. I appreciate
so
your
great
time,
to
man.
talk to
Thanks
you.
for coming. Keep shipping. Stay private, guys. How did I miss the Zcash trade? Thread guy was screaming about it. Oh, oh man. All right, guys. We've got Nils Bundy from Vesu and Arpin from Noon. Yield bearing BTC Fi on Starknet, stable coins, infra, a lot going on in this space. I'm going to prompt them with the institutional framing that we are really packaging from SmartCon. So, yeah, that was an insightful conversation. I mean, that was that was one of those ones where, like, you just get your mind going philosophically and kind of deep down in certain rabbit holes, and you just keep going. And that's probably why I ended up a little bit late for the next segment. So, guys, we've got Arpin and Nils up in the back. We're going to get them up, and we're going to start to talk about stablecoins, DeFi, Bitcoin yields, and more. First time for them on the show, so looking forward to hearing about what they're both building, and generally kind of like where they're at. So, yeah, ready to have them up when our team is ready in the back. How are we looking in the markets today? Well, we don't have a chance to look. Guys, welcome to the show. Nils, Arpin, pleasure to have you. Doing all right, lads. Good to see you. Happy Tuesday. We just came back from SmartCon NYC last week, Chainlink's institutional event. It was absolutely stellar. I mean, so much is happening with regards to tokenization, with regards to stablecoins. The perception has flipped entirely on DeFi. Obviously, privacy is a big talk of the town now. A lot of things to jump into, but guys, I would love to just get a quick brief about yourselves and kind of what each of your projects are for the audience, and then let's jump into it. So, Nils, maybe you can kick us off.
Yeah, sure. I'm Niels, co-founder of Vesu. We are Starknet's main lending market, where people are able to borrow with their Bitcoin as collateral or other assets as collateral, earn yield, and all of that in a fully non-custodial way. I'm been in the space since 2017, and I'm really excited these days about the ability to build products that look a lot like neobanks, a
Oh
lot
yeah.
like App2. The UX that we are able to deliver today is so much different and so much better from, like, going back to 2017 again, and that's very exciting.
Beautiful. Welcome on, Arpin.
I'm the founder of Noon. We are building the highest yielding, safest, and most rewarding stablecoin in crypto. My background started off my career at a management consulting firm called McKinsey, spent some time at Goldman, built a neobank in the UK. So understand a lot of the trials and tribulations from that space, but also understand a lot of the institutional demand and the guardrails that we need to put in place in order to make this space as safe and attractive for not just people in crypto right now, but for the next billion plus users. So yeah, super excited to get into it. Super excited to speak to you guys about what we're building with Nils on Starknet.
Yeah, awesome, guys. So before we jump into some of like the nitty gritty of the yields and kind of the mechanism design, just kind of holistically, we've seen a lot of regulatory landscape evolution the last 6 to 9 months, really since Trump got into office. But feels like the last 6 months it's really picked up in a positive way. I had the CEO of the Digital Chamber of Commerce in DC on the show last week. He's optimistic about the market structure and the Clarity Act. The market structure bill being passed before the next Congress, which is December of next year. So not as fast as many of us would have liked, but the Clarity Act seemingly has been started to move forward. We've been in this government shutdown as well for almost 2 months now. It's been absolutely unreal. So not much has been getting done, I don't think, but I think when that reopens, we should see an ushering of new ETFs and just further progress on the Clarity Act and the market structure bill. So from the perspectives of building neobanks, of building DeFi products, how do you guys position or think about the evolution of this space? Let's call it over the next year, right? So we are kind of entering. I'm viewing this year as like a line in the sand type of year, meaning that that the space is quite different going forward. For each of your product designs, for your users, for your thought process about implementation, distribution, it's quite an open-ended question here. But generally, how do you think about the industry evolving, and then how does that affect your decision making as the founders of your respective companies? And Arpin, please.
It's a really good question. It's a question that we think about a lot. I think right now you've had a couple of big stablecoin regulations come out, MiCA in the UK, in the EU, Genius in the US, and both of these are pretty conservative when it comes to sort of what are permitted regulated stablecoins. They only really allow stablecoins to be very low yielding, invest in sort of the most liquid of liquid assets, right? And I understand why this is happening. Obviously, they want to walk before they run, and they want to take as conservative and as safe of an approach as possible. But frankly, that kind of restriction is even more restrictive than the HQLA requirements imposed on mainstream banks by Basel III, right? So I'm a firm believer that that is a stepping stone while the regulators figure out the true risks behind stablecoins to a future which is probably going to be a little bit more flexible and free. And so, with that in mind, we are building a stablecoin not with regulators in mind, but with the end customer in mind. And we will basically adapt the jurisdictions that we actually go out and distribute the stablecoin based on what the regulator does. So right now, we're not planning on any distributions in Europe. We're not planning on any distribution in the US, because frankly, that just restricts our product too much to an APY, which is basically the T-bill rate, right? Which is 3-4% right now, where our competitors are at 7 or 8%, and we're at 15%. So that's the only way that we feel that we can really be successful.
Nils.
Yeah, I cannot speak to stablecoin regulation as much as Arpan can, of course. And I think we've really seen a lot of good progress on the regulation side. And I think mostly in the sense that regulators and the broader industry starts to take an interest in this industry, right? I think that in general is a very positive development, right? Which actually shows where we have gotten to something that it's worth paying attention to. There have been different reasons, of course, why over time regulators started to look at certain things. The Celsius and all of these incidents, right? But overall, what I really like about this development is that the industry itself is maturing, right? And regulations can, of course, hinder your product development. I mean, ultimately, what we all want to be is kind of an internet native product. What I always still think is mind-blowing is just on a technological level, we can build a product that we can distribute very easily to any part of the world, wherever the internet goes to, right? And I think this is one of the properties, if you think in terms of a product, that we try to preserve, right? So of course, there are developments also on that side, which we are very cautious about and observing. In terms of specific regulation, some of the things that is just a line for us that we don't cross are the obvious functions from traditional markets that you don't want to tap into, right? So something like custody. It's a line, we never touch user funds. We design the lending market in a way where we do not control funds. We don't have control over user funds and stuff. So let's say, some of the obvious things that we can make right now, we are very careful to not cross those lines. And for those things where we still don't have enough clarity of what's possible kind of in this new world and in this new environment, I think it's to a certain extent like the entire industry. We are watching, observing, and learning every day where the industry kind of heads into. I think we will see much more kind of influence from regulators and the traditional industry as the traditional financial industry starts to take a bigger interest in DeFi, let's say. And so we are observing that a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I think the traditional industry wants to get some sort of access, right? So we saw these digital asset treasury companies. Some of them have started to use Ethereum DeFi. ETHZilla deposited a bunch into Puffer, like a restaking product. Sharplink has deposited a ton into EtherFi's cash product. And so like we're definitely seeing this institutional demand for basically just yield on ETH. But I think Bitcoin is like the next big frontier. So Ellie, the co-creator of Starkware and Starknet, he's got this saying that kind of like Bitcoin used to be this kind of dead under a rock type of asset, but now it's moving away from just being a store of value. I think Starknet has just recently launched a Bitcoin Fi campaign. Obviously, you guys are both, bringing USN and SUSN on your side, ARP on Starknet. Nils obviously have been doing, have had your exchange there and your product there for some time. Maybe we can just walk through this. What is this Bitcoin Fi campaign, Nils? And what does Starknet and Vesu help Bitcoiners do with their Bitcoin? How do you help them get yield? What does that kind of look like?
Yeah, sure. I'm very happy to go into that. Look, BTC Fi has one goal, for us, for Starknet, for the entire ecosystem. It's to bring more utility to Bitcoin. It's to allow Bitcoin holders to do more with their Bitcoin than just holding it in cold storage and selling from time to time when they have to pay their bills or want to renovate their homes or send their kids to school, right? Bitcoin, I think we all agree, is the highest, quality, highest reputation crypto asset that exists. And it should receive that treatment in terms of being able to use it as collateral to take a loan instead of having to sell your Bitcoin or to earn interest on it, earn yield on it, and save Bitcoin. So this is the very, objective of BTC-Fi on Starknet. And there are a bunch of things that Starknet as an ecosystem does to do that. It's not a traditional, let's say, incentive campaign where, we just throw some rewards on users to deposit their Bitcoin assets. It's a really well thought through strategy behind it that has multiple levels. And I think that's something that people need to start to explore. I just want to highlight a few things which are really different from this BTC-Fi campaign. It starts with securing Starknet itself as a chain with Bitcoin assets. It's on the one hand, the low risk kind of yield source that you can get, similar to staking Ethereum, right? And on the other hand, it's an alignment with Bitcoin as the asset and Bitcoin the community. So you can now stake Bitcoin to secure Starknet and earn staking rewards or staking yield on your Bitcoin. There are LSTs, so similar to wrap staked ETH. There are now LSTs on Bitcoin on Starknet. You can use those LSTs to borrow against them. You can use Bitcoin assets to take USDC loans. You can earn yield on your Bitcoin. Everything that Starknet and the ecosystem, the apps do, focuses on bringing more utility to Bitcoin and give Bitcoin the quality that it should have as an asset that we can use in all sorts of transactions in DeFi.
Yeah. Arpin, I must say, one of my big regrets is not holding on to Bitcoin in 2017 when I first found it. I had a couple $1,000s to my name. I had a couple Bitcoin. And what I should have done back then is find a product that allows me to borrow against it, some solid stable coin, get some yield, hold on to it, keep borrowing against it as the price appreciates, pay for my lifestyle. From your perspective with USN, SUSN, in collaboration with, Nils here and Vesu, or just generally, how do you think about the users for the stablecoin? How do you think about kind of the demand for kind of like Bitcoin backed loans? When it comes to who's going to be using and what are they going to be using, your stablecoin for from Noon? How do you think about that customer segment? You mentioned not in the States, not in Europe. Kind of what is the holistic, viewpoint here for types of use cases, types of users, and generally where you expect or where you have been seeing the most traction?
Yeah, honestly, it's kind of exactly as you say, right? I think I've heard this story so many times with people who got into Bitcoin from like 2013 to 2017, even 2019. And a lot of people didn't really know that Bitcoin would become this kind of like inflation-proof store of value that it's become today, and obviously skyrocket. If you knew that, obviously you'd be like a multi-millionaire by now, right? Um, and as a result, more and more people, and this is when I say people, I mean users, both retail and institutions, are thinking and saying, okay, we need to have Bitcoin on our balance sheet, right? Be it our personal balance sheet or our corporate balance sheet or our fund balance sheet. Now, obviously, there's going to be some volatility. There's going to be some appreciation. There's going to be some depreciation. We're okay with that. But how do we maximize the yield? How do we sort of squeeze as much juice out of Bitcoin as we can without giving up on that upside, without giving up on that inflation hedge, right? And unfortunately, as I think everyone knows about Bitcoin, there isn't very much native yield, right? Native yield on Bitcoin is something between 1% and 3%. That's why I think when Starknet came to develop their BTC Fi campaign, they approached us and said, hey, listen, we need real native sources of yield that are going to allow people using Bitcoin to use the Bitcoin as collateral, borrow a non-yield bearing stable like USDC against it, and then deposit into a yield bearing stable. And what better yield bearing stable than something that is safe, highly rewarding, and extremely sort of competitive against every other stablecoin out there right now. So that's what we're going to start with. And we're going to focus on first bringing on, I think, some major institutions. Then we're going to start opening this up to your day-to-day retail user and allow people to keep a hold of Bitcoin, keep that value appreciation going, while at the same time generating really safe delta neutral yield against it.
We all love yield.
You know what? I love safe yields. And I think that especially, I'm sure everyone has seen over the last week or two, the distinction, even within the stablecoin space, between safe yields and yields in general. So that's why whenever we talk about Noon, we always distinguish between, we're not always going to be the highest yielding stablecoin full stop, but we're going to be the highest yielding safe stablecoin. And we do that through a variety of risk management. So low risk to us means, I mean, we can spend like 3 hours just talking about that, right? But to us, what low risk means is so the way that we work is we deploy a bunch of deployment strategies across DeFi, CeFi, and TradFi. So we go to wherever the lowest risk, highest yielding yields are. But so that gives us a massive universe to play around with. But what we need to do then within that universe is look at each yield strategy and do a very detailed risk assessment on this. And this is when my team's background in traditional finance and banking, risk management, investment banking, et cetera, all come in handy. So for each and every yield source, we have a detailed risk assessment that takes into account, your typical risks, your market risk, your liquidity risk, your smart contract risk, your volatility risk, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. We publish it to everyone. We let our community discuss it. We let our community vote on it. And only then do we actually allow our deployment strategies to encompass these new yield
Yeah, I
sources.
mean, I think that the definition and the terminology sometimes is hard to get in alignment of, but Vitalik has been pushing this low risk DeFi, low risk DeFi. Like he's like, I love high risk DeFi. I love, the poly markets or whatever it is, but low risk DeFi. So when it comes to the actual yield opportunities for both of your protocols today, I think transparency is what people want. They want to see that transparency of the yield. They want to know what they're getting. How do you guys provide transparency to your users? What does that look like when it comes to Bitcoin yields, when it comes to stablecoin yields? Yeah, Nils, maybe you can try that one.
Yeah, so Vesu is a DeFi lending market, right? So it's built on the Starknet chain. Everything's fully transparent by design, right? In the sense that it runs by smart contracts. Everyone can see at any time where the fund's at, that no one is just taking out funds that shouldn't, or that even no one can, right? Because everyone can verify permissions. Now, this is the nature of DeFi, and while all of this is available, it's actually also not, because a regular user cannot go and go through contracts on chain, or even use a block explorer. So what's really important there is to have the tools that users can actually make use of that transparency that we can provide them, right? And so how that looks for us is, first of all, on the Vesu UI, where you ultimately make your decisions. You're in, decisions where you access yield, where you deposit funds into. We provide already very important information, including what collateral exposures, for instance, you have if you deposit into that market, right? So just the really necessary information for a professional user to make their decision about the risk that someone's exposed to. And this covers most things that most people need to understand before they make a decision, right? But then there is more information that you or some people actually use to verify things, and so an important tool that DeFi and crypto has is Dune dashboards, right? Which is also, if you think about it, and if we come back to kind of the traditional neobanks, is something that's really, again, a very feature of DeFi. Anyone builds a dashboard and actually verifies and makes sure that what they actually claim, where you're depositing into, it's actually exactly that, right? So, a Dune dashboard where if you need to understand more, you can go and verify. But then also, just I think transparency to understand the data is one important thing that is characteristic of DeFi. But the other thing is actually other safety mechanisms, like there is a Vesu UI, I want to deposit and I want to be sure I can always withdraw again, right? Now, what happens if this UI is actually down? It didn't really happen. We have a really good uptime for the Vesu UI, but still it can happen anytime, right? We have seen infrastructure failures like, Amazon, which was down. So yeah, it can happen. And so what I include in this transparency conversation is also the tools necessary to access my funds if, for instance, the main UI is down, right? So there is a fallback UI where I can get access to my funds if the main UI is down. And so I think what's really important is when you talk about transparency is, yes, by design, we can create transparency, but we need to provide the tools that users actually can make use of this transparency and the data.
Yeah. And then Arpin, when you're collaborating with teams like Akubo, like Vesu, others, it's obviously important for you to understand what's happening and have that transparency, but also vice versa into your protocol and into, the design that you guys have. Talk to us about some of the collaborations that have been going on, how those have been going, kind of what each of the pieces of the Starknet kind of DeFi ecosystem enable for you guys from Noon's perspective.
Yeah, for sure. I think first on transparency. So we've actually been beating the drum on transparency and security probably for longer than anyone else.
That's good.
And so we I believe we're the first stablecoin to have a independent live proof of solvency, which our partners at Accountable, we partnered with them probably 6 to 9 months ago. And effectively, what we did with transparency, we said, all right, everyone has these attestations, right? Where they're like, okay, cool, we have all the money you think we have. But most of that is just self-reported data. And frankly, I can come up with a website that tells you I have $20 million if you think I have $20 million. That's not very hard. So rather what we did was we worked with our partners at Accountable and we said, okay, let's have a third party come in. Let's connect them directly to our custodians and our custodial partners and let these two parties directly contact each other, right? Without us in the middle. So we have no ability to influence the data. We're not giving the users the data. They are directly getting the data from the people who hold our assets. And then they're publishing it live, real time, every 15 minutes. So our users can literally go on our proof of solvency website, noon.accountable.capital right now, and on a real-time basis see exactly what our reserve position is, what our supply position is, so if we're over collateralized or under collateralized, and exactly how our reserves are deployed. So what's our current deployment mix? How's that changing over time, et cetera? And I think that is the ultimate level of transparency that this industry needs. And I think a lot more people need to start embracing.
I mean, I completely agree. I mean, we've we've kind of bucketed now yield-bearing stablecoins and genius-compliant stablecoins almost, and like the genius-compliant are basically impossible to fail. Knock on wood. And then the yield-bearing ones have a bit more leeway. Did you guys watch what unfolded with Stream and XUSD and these vaults and the drama between Gauntlet and Chaos Labs and Aave and Morpho and all this over the last week or so? Did you guys?
Yeah, very closely.
Okay, so Arpin, from your perspective, like, what went wrong, or what can we take away from that going forward as a community, as far as implementation details for stablecoins and vaults?
I mean, so the Stream and DUSD situation in particular was I think the TLDR is don't take shortcuts to growing TVL, right? Which is exactly what they did. They basically said, hey, listen, we're gonna, again, in a much more complicated way, we're gonna give you money, you guys give us money back, and we'll just kind of loop it around and grow both of our TVLs really, really fast, right? And what that created was effectively the same dollar was underpinning $5 to $10 of each of Stream and Elixir's TVL, right? We decided from a very, very early point in time. So we've been approached by several protocols, and I mean, Stream and Elixir by no means were the only ones going out there looking for these kinds of deals. We were approached by several of them, and we actually, I think, posted a screenshot of us, again, 3 months ago, declining this, saying there's no way we would ever consider something like this because it just erodes the quality of our reserves. So I think that's the big TLDR for Stream and Elixir is for stablecoin protocols, don't try to take shortcuts because at some point it will catch up to you, right?
I mean, just the over rehypothecation for no reason other than just greed and yield and whatever. I mean, we saw it so many times in DeFi. That's always what the issue has been, is the over rehypothecation of funds.
If I may, I think there's a very important distinction to be made here between rehypothecation and recursive lending, right? So rehypothecation, I think, is totally fine as long as you're not kind of doing this incestuous recursive lending. So that's the rule that we strongly adhere to, that if we, for example, we have DeFi deployments within our deployment stack, right? We will never, ever deploy into any DeFi protocol that deploys into us. So we've had lots of conversations with large funds, curators, et cetera. And we've been very, very clear about that if we deploy into you, you can't deploy back into us. And vice versa. If you're deploying into us, we will never deploy into you. But otherwise, I think rehypothecation, frankly, is one of the superpowers that DeFi has and one of the advantages that DeFi has over TradFi because of two things, right? One, DeFi is super transparent. I can see exactly what's backing my loan no matter what. And this is exactly what Nils was talking about, right? And then second, you have smart contracts. We can actually automatically liquidate, automatically unwind positions the moment certain thresholds get met. I think rehypothecation is a massive advantage that DeFi has over TradFi because you can't get that level of transparency and that level of automation in TradFi. So rehypothecation, I think, is fine. Recursive lending, where you're kind of incestuously looping between two protocols just for the sake of kind of nebulous TVL that really doesn't exist, that was the problem, and that's what we need to avoid.
Nils, anything from your side on that?
Yeah, I completely agree with the point that Arpan made around don't take shortcuts to boost your TVL. I think that is a big reason why these things happen and why they happen again and again, right? In DeFi. And so, just one comment from how things have been done in BTCFi. There was a program before BTCFi, and Starknet was always very, very it was very important for them to actually not reward, for instance, recursive borrowing and lending, right? And it's for exactly that reason. Starknet, the team, we at Vesu, we don't build to just create the bubble that may explode like in 1 or 2 months, but we had, our stats looking nice for that time. Everyone builds for the long term, and I think that's what's really important, and that what helps, the ecosystem to stay secure. Then the other part of my reaction would be, it's also from the perspective as a lending market, and in particular, Vesu being a lending market that works similar to more for Euler, where third-party curators actually curate pools and vaults. One thing that we are really watching closely is how well can, let's say, the infrastructure provider like Morpho or like Euler kind of shield themselves from like the impact that this can have on lending markets, right? Even though third-party curators actually operate those pools, and I think that's something that we're very interested in. I think it goes back to a governance level, even in that curator-based lending model, which I personally still think is the model that will succeed in the long term. There is governance going on, right? And even if it's just the governance around what do you actually show your users on your website, right? And that's very important because you want to protect your users and you want to protect your brand, right? And so I think it ultimately goes back to having different parties doing different things in this whole transaction. Who does governance? Are they the same people that actually then benefit kind of economically from such behavior? And I think that's where we will see the industry mature. We'll see it to be more professional. And I think for lending markets, it's really important to make sure users are safe and protect your brand.
If you guys got another minute, I'm super curious to understand your takes on the Uniswap proposal for the Uni token. Did you guys see that?
I did not,
Okay,
I have
so
to say.
Okay, so basically what's happened is that Uniswap has been under fire by the crypto community for so long for basically having the labs make all the money, 9 figs in revenue a year, and the token holders effectively have no claims on any revenues. They charge that small front end fee now, goes to the labs. They have that 0.3% LP fee, goes to the LPs. And so there's really like no way for the token to be represented as part of this. It's like, why would you even have a token, right? But Hayden and the team just came out and said, basically, we're going to be distributing cash flow back to the token, and like we're going to solve this equity token holder kind of dysmorphia problem. Hyperliquid is notably led the market this year with this model. Obviously, not everyone's going to be able to make as much as they make. Perps are hot. Starknet has had staking. They've kind of started to think more deeply about this. ZK Sync had just put out a whole ZK token model thing that they're working on, a proposal. It very much seems like the regulation has opened up for what would previously have kind of go into the semantics of what these things are. What's your take on this trend, guys? Do you think that this continues, accelerates, decelerates? How do you see crypto asset mechanisms being kind of evolving through this better era of regulatory clarity? Plus, I had this saying, return to fundamentals. It's just like, let's do the basics and bring value back to the shareholders. Kind of what is your high level view on this trend?
Yeah,
Well, I
I'm
think
happy.
it's a really important topic if you start to think about issuing a token, right? I think Uniswap, but also a lot of the blue chip assets which have launched way back, and which have been launched around narratives mostly. I think we have seen the industry to move into a more kind of fundamentals based approach. I think both is still possible. There are assets, tokens that run purely on narratives, which is fine. I think for DeFi protocols, you are by nature more under scrutiny because you're actually generating fundamentals. And so I think it's totally expected that people will want to have some of that, and that your valuation somehow is rooted in that. So on Vesu we did not launch a token. Vesu doesn't have a token. There is no token. There is no VCs actually who have tokens and stuff. So what we wanted to make sure is we need to have a product that can generate fundamentals at some point. We need to have product market fit before we even want to think about what the role of a token would be, right? And I think this is really different nowadays than it was 4 years ago, 5 years ago, and there are various reasons. So I'm not pointing fingers at how things have been done back then versus now, but I can totally understand the industry changes, and people look at fundamentals now.
Thank God, eh? Arpin, close us out, man.
Yeah, so agree with everything Nils has said, and I'll give you a very sort of real example. So when we started Noon, we knew that we wanted to make sure that our governance token holders, first and foremost, governed our protocol, right? That was super important to us. And as a result, we actually said, hey, listen, let's not take in any external funding. Let's not give out any tokens to VCs, early LPs, or like a small group of individuals who are going to be able to dictate what our protocol does in the future. Let's truly make this a democratized, user-controlled protocol, right? And as a result, if we put this much of an emphasis on users governing, we need to make sure that they get something else out of the governance token other than just governance votes, right? And I think, as Nils said, right, I think in 2021, 2022, you could get away with saying, hey, listen, we'll figure out actual dollar utility later on, partially because of how conservative the US was being, but partially just because the market was okay with it, right? VCs were fine pumping money in, retail was fine pumping money in. But now, so from day one, we always said, hey, listen, we're always going to have a way to get dollar value back to our governance token holders. We were, I believe, the first stablecoin to implement that. Our governance token is going to become transferable in January of 2026. And we'll see that coming to life, which will be really, really exciting. And to your question, I think that needs to become the norm, right? I think you're seeing very, very evidently that the public and the markets are valuing pure governance value at a marginal premium. And unless there's actual like cash flow and NPV going back into the governance token, valuations are just going to crater. So I think the market's spoken.
Or you're just going to buy hype, or you're just going to buy whatever, because why would you
Exactly.
not own the thing that actually you can sleep at night? We got a guy in the chat, Bosco, saying when Vesu. I think it's probably a good time to wrap out. I think we're getting the when token question now. So that means that it's been a good conversation, lads. Appreciate your time. Appreciate your work on StarkNet, and look forward to following along with what you guys are building.
Awesome.
Thanks for your time, Andy. Appreciate it.
Peace out, lads. Have a good day.
Bye-bye. Bye, everyone.
Alrighty, guys. We're going to take a little bit of a quick break, and then I'm going to go on an absolute rant. So just give me about 30 seconds or a minute, and I'll be right back. See you guys in a sec. All right, guys, I am honestly so back with my return to fundamentals take. So if you have not been following me for the last several months, I was at a ETH Denver conference. They asked me to put up a tweet and talk about it, and my tweet literally just said return to fundamentals. And I want you guys to understand what that means. So fundamentals of our space: self-sovereignty, censorship resistance, private money, unfuck with ability, the ability to be anywhere in the world and have your hardware wallet and have hard money, to resist state level attacks, to be free of inflationary fiat currencies. Guys, we are building a plan B, an alternative for the people of the world. This is the fundamentals, guys. We've gotten off track because of the shitty regulatory regime led by Mr. Gary Gensler. It is hard to describe and overestimate the amount of impact that that one person had on our industry. The Fugazi decentralization is gone. The doing a DAO for the sake of being a DAO is gone. Having to do all these crazy foundation and labs and no revenue to token holders. So I'm just going to hide the fact that I have no product market fit under the veil of regulatory scrutiny is gone. Put up or shut up. It is time to get real in this industry, and we are doing it one day at a time. Return to fundamentals is something that we can all get behind. I truly, truly believe that our industry is at the cusp. 2025 being a line in the sand type of year. Guys, we are returning to fundamentals right now. In fact, why ever go away from them? Guys, you're seeing Zcash pump. You're seeing Near pump. You're seeing Hyperliquid do well. You're seeing Uniswap launch a revenue proposal. The revenue meta is 100% here. It is not a meta, although I coined that term on a joking poll. This is the future of our industry, and this is what institutions want. Guys, I was sitting at SmartCon in a Fidelity sponsored lounge with a suit shirt on, a nice white dress shirt, watching DTCC, JP Morgan, Fidelity, Goldman, the Fed, the White House, Citibank, insert name here, JP Morgan. They were coming up and they wanted to know what we were doing, what the show was all about. And, they're coming into the industry. ETFs, when the government shutdown ends, hopefully this month before Thanksgiving, we'll see an onslaught of ETFs. We will see the market structure bill get passed. I talked to the CEO of the Chamber of Commerce. He said by the end of this Congress, which at the latest is the end of next year. The Clarity Act, if you've seen, has been put forth. There are still a lot of debates and discussions to be had, but that is coming as well. Guys, the institutions are coming, and there is a full-blown Wolf of Wall Street bull market happening in New York City right now, and crypto Twitter is crying about the price of some shitcoin. Guys, you need to zoom out and understand where we are at in time. I've been in this industry for 7 or 8 years. It has never been this easy to be bullish on the space. You just need to have a longer time horizon than the attention span of a squirrel person next to you who's trading on high leverage and getting liquidated. Look, there's still a lot of crap to unwind from the 1010 massacre on our bags. I get it. Frankly, it doesn't look great out there, but it looked better than what it did last week. But that doesn't even matter. Guys, there is a full-blown tokenization bull run happening on Wall Street as we speak, on the literal ground floors of the biggest institutions and capital allocators in the world. Guys, do not be dissuaded right now. Do not be apathetic. Be more bullish. This space has never been brighter. The industry, the United States has came and it has been the capital of this industry. It is going to be the future of this industry. We have established the US as a hub, and this is going to be massive. Guys, return to fundamentals is so back, and I can't even express my bullishness in one rant. Like this is rant number 1. I digress. Rant number 2, which is quite aligned. It's about DevConnect. Okay? DevConnect is about to be absolutely electric in Buenos Aires. Here's why. The Ethereum Foundation has finally realized that the best way to adopt Ethereum and to grow Ethereum into a global money, a global settlement layer for stablecoins for DeFi, is to simply host conferences at the locations where our industry is needed most. I went to Buenos Aires with my dad, probably 2023. We were walking down Florida Ave. Many of you are going to go to Florida Ave and you're going to see what I'm talking about. On Florida Avenue, you will have hundreds of Argentinian people asking you for cambio. Cambio is Espanol for change. Change, right? Like you want to change. They want your Bitcoin. They want your ETH. They want your Ripple. They want your dollar. They want your stable coins. They want your euros. They want all of it. They want to do a swap, and they don't want the government to know about it. And they want to take that, put it in their bank, or put it in their under their mattress. They want to put it into cows, into land, into Bitcoin, into other fiat currencies. The entire purpose of return of fundamentals, of stable coins, of self-sovereign money, of not being a subject to your nation state's lack of good decision making is all happening in Buenos Aires. When I was there, the ratio was 1 to 400, $1 to 400 pesos. Dude, I went back a year and a half later, so let's call it late 2023 or early 24 or something, and it was 1 to 1200. That means that they lost 75% of their purchasing power in less than a year and a half. Now, that was an insane run that they had, and they've sorted a lot of it out, and there's a lot of stuff going on. But guys, it is a safe city, and I know that's contrarian, but trust me, I've lived in Bogota, Medellin, I've lived in Sao Paulo, in Rio, in North Brazil, Nicaragua, Panama. Trust me, Buenos Aires is safe, and it is clean, it is healthy, it is a vibe. The nightlife is fantastic. Guys, this is going to be the next best Ethereum conference following from Cannes. It is going to be absolutely electric. And why? It's because the people of this country need us. They need Ethereum. They need stablecoins. They need store of values more than ever. And this is what we came for. We wanted to bank the unbanked. We wanted to provide an option for other people to come in. And this is what we're doing in DevConnect in Buenos Aires. Guys, thank you for listening to this rant. We've got our episode of Money Moves Fast, episode number 10, coming to you live with nobody else than Diego Fernandez from Buenos Aires. We're going to be talking about what they're doing with Sovra and more. Guys, we'll be right back. Let's go. Alrighty, guys, we are here with Money Moves Fast, episode number 10. We've got Diego Fernandez, the co-founder of Savra. Money Moves Fast is our premier weekly payments, tokenization, and RWAs show here on Rollup TV. No one better to have for this week other than Diego, coming live from Buenos Aires. We will be there with him very, very shortly. One of the premier hubs of crypto and blockchain, where the use cases far surpass speculation and hype and are drilled into the everyday use case for the average folk. Diego, pleasure to have you, man.
Andy, thank you so much for inviting me. Happy to be here.
How's the city, man? How's the city? What it must be picking up already.
Well, I mean, the city is crazy as usual, but now with the added Deck Connect stuff, honestly, I cannot be sort of precise about Buenos Aires because I love the place so much. And I'm convinced that most of our visitors for Deck Connect will love it as well. We are very charming people. You'll have tons of asado. Hope you're not vegan or whatever. Beautiful wine, amazing weather, and people are so excited about that Connect. I think we'll have thousands of guests, and everybody's really excited about it.
Yeah, man. I mean, I put out this tweet that got some pushback about it. Maybe you could answer this real quick. I think this would be helpful for the people. I put out this tweet saying Buenos Aires will be one of the best locations for a conference for the Ethereum community. Easy taxis, very safe, perfect weather, great food and cheap, beautiful Euro architecture, feels very homey, fun nightlife. I got quite a bit of pushback from people saying very safe, ? Buenos Aires is not safe, unfortunately. Very safe, not safe. So maybe you could just give us a quick rundown as to, and we'll clip this, how to be safe in Buenos Aires. How should we act in Buenos Aires? How should we dress? How do we stay safe and stay out of trouble down there?
Honestly, and this is not my impression, this is hard data. Buenos Aires has the lowest homicide per 100,000 inhabitants, I think that in all of America. No? So Buenos Aires is objectively a very safe city. Of course, you have certain places in Buenos Aires which maybe you shouldn't go out at night, but trust me, you're not going. Maybe you shouldn't go out at night with an iPhone 17 Pro Max doing like this, or a 20,000K, 20K watch. But trust me, you're not going to be there. I mean, you'll stay in neighborhoods where I live in Palermo, which nothing will happen. Nothing. You can get a chance off if you're, doing like this on the street, someone comes and pull your phone out. The same thing happens in New York, in any other European city. In my perspective, Buenos Aires is a perfectly safe town, and everybody that comes can be very, very comfortable with it. And I hope that you enjoy it.
And that's how I feel too. I mean, I was saying, like, look, I mean, I've lived in Medellin, in Bogota, in Sao Paulo, in Rio, in Nicaragua, in Panama. And I've been around the block. I've been in many places that I should not be at late night hours, and never in my time in Buenos Aires did I feel threatened. Did I feel under fire? Did I feel like I was going to be threatened? So, man, let's get to the meat and potatoes here today. Buenos Aires, Argentina is an economic hub for the Southern Cone. It is a city of culture. It is a city of art, of food, of wine. It's also been a country that has been plagued with questionable economic decision-making from the highest of powers. Crypto as a technology has absolutely infiltrated the countries that have needed it the most, primarily with stablecoins. Maybe we could talk a bit about how, like, the state of blockchain adoption in Argentina, and kind of why stablecoins, why Bitcoin, and these store of value assets have been so important, and just generally kind of like what the evolution you've seen over the last couple of years as far as adoption has looked like.
Well, first of all, thank you for being so mild about questionable economic decisions from governments in Argentina. That is honestly a complete understatement. I mean, there's this saying, I don't know who was the guy that said it, there's developed countries, there's underdeveloped countries, Japan and Argentina, which are two inexplicable cases. So Argentina has been sort of a victim of maybe the worst economic decision-making for the last 70 years. And we have had, I don't know, inflation, I think 65 out of those 70 years. And when I say inflation, I mean crazy inflation. It's not 2, 3, 4, 5%. It's 20, 100, 200, and even thousands of percentage per year of inflation. And the government, before the government that we have now, started taking these measures as, for example, not allowing people to buy dollars. So when you have these pesos, local currency in your hand, with a 20% per month inflation, literally the money melts in your hands. So what do sort of people try to do? Hey, this money is losing value each day, so I have basically two alternatives. I buy things and spend my money and buy whatever thing. I buy a car if I can, or I buy a refrigerator, or I go out and have a dinner, but I prefer to spend my money and not keeping it. And the other alternative is I'm going to preserve this kind of short-term store value. I buy dollars, and by that way, I'm preserving the value of my money. And that is so embedded in Argentine culture because of 70 years of mismanagement of the economic situation. So crypto got into Argentina, in my perspective, from two different sides. We have a really strong foothold in developers and really deep tech guys doing amazing things in Argentina, starting with the Voltaire House, something like 10 years ago, where many OGs from the Ethereum community came out, Open Zeppelin and others, Lambda class working for 10 years in crypto and so on. So we had this sort of talent in Argentina, which is one of the bases for crypto to really get its momentum. And on the other hand side, we got this sort of very bad situation in which we as Argentinians needed crypto as a means for survival, for economic survival. So crypto in Argentina is not an online 24/7 casino, it's not a Dijon stuff, it's not a meme coin thing, it's something that provided regular folks, which didn't know a thing about crypto, say, hey, instead of going, and I'm speaking literally, with a bag full of pesos just to get $2,000, I may use this app and buy crypto dollars. Oh, this is amazing. So I get my salary, and instead of seeing how my salary loses 10, 15% of its value over 30 days, I can get into dollars and then come back. So that was a way of survival for us. And many regular folks, which if you wanted to buy, I don't know, 20K in dollars, okay, maybe you had the way of doing that because you're kind of more sophisticated. But what happens if you, I don't know, want to buy $200, $300? Okay, that is was very uncomfortable, to say it isn't. So crypto and stablecoins, mainly, as you mentioned, became a way for Argentinians to survive. But once they got into crypto, something very interesting started to happen. I was speaking with Chelo, which is the founder of Lemon, it's the biggest crypto wallet in Argentina. And just a couple of months ago, he shared with me that for the first time, BTC and ETH holding in their users' accounts exceeded stablecoins. So they got in through stablecoins, but then they sort of say, hey, come on, something's going on here, and started migrating part of their holdings to BTC and ETH. So today, of course, there's not a very precise estimate, but we estimate that between 20 to 25% of the population holds and knows crypto. Of course, I'm not meaning, again, Dijons, but they hold crypto in their wallet. They have a crypto wallet and they use it to, maybe they have a card or a Lemon card, a MetaMask card or whatever, but they have crypto as part of their lives and not because of gambling. So for me, that's a very interesting thing that's going on.
I mean, I think any sort of store of value becomes extremely appealing to the Argentine people, and you can see it in the day-to-day, right? I was talking about earlier how if you go down Florida Avenue, you will see and hear cambio. It is absolutely a part. Like, if you guys are watching this right now and you're going to Buenos Aires, you must go down Florida Avenue to get a sense of what it's like to exist in these types of places.
You know what? We have a local slang word for that, which is called arbolito, which is little tree. Little tree. So
Little
those are
tree.
the little trees. I say cambio, 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 cambio. Yeah.
All right, man. Well, so let's kind of formulate the payments landscape here. Is there a lot of activity between like the United States or other countries sending remittances back to Argentina? I know that happens a lot in Mexico with the U.S., and you guys are doing some work down there as well, which we can get into. But as far as the payment space goes in Argentina, who's dominating that? What is the preferred stablecoin? What is the preferred application? Kind of what is some of the volumes and velocities? Like kind of what is the status of payments when it comes to crypto payments in Argentina?
Well, I wouldn't say that remittances to Argentina are the main income from foreign countries. We do have a lot of income from foreign countries coming from freelancers and people doing whatever services, graphic design, coding, or whatever offshore. And as we had these sort of capital controls, very aggressive capital controls, crypto became again a way of getting that money in Argentina. And several different wallets started offering you the services of saying, hey, you get this crypto wallet, we open for you, or we give you a bank account in the US. You can get fiat money there from your customers, and we put crypto dollars in your local account, or we put crypto dollar in your wallet. So that is and was a very strong way of getting money in the country. And we do have a strong remittances going on with mainly Paraguay, Bolivia, Venezuela, which a lot of people from Paraguay, Bolivia, Venezuela, Peru maybe come to work to Argentina, and they want to send money back to their families. Yeah. So there is money going out of the country, but there is again a very strong player there. And we do have a very strong connection as well with Brazil, because we Argentinians spend holidays and visit Brazil very regularly. So in the payments arena, as you were asking, well, we have a sort of a behemoth of players here, which is Mercado Pago. Mercado Pago is a company controlled by Mercado Libre, which is a platform, a local or regional platform in the ways of Amazon, which they do have a payment railway as well, which is Mercado Pago, which dominates, I don't know, 80 or 90% plus of the market. We do have all of the fintech scenario with our Walla, it's a very important fintech, and Brubac and several others play in that arena. There is traditional fiat fintechs. And then we have the crypto wallets. I would mention Lemon, I would mention Velo, I would mention Wenbit. It's a very sophisticated market. We in Argentina, and when you guys come here, are going to see it, we have basically the two most important means of payments are using NFC chips with credit cards or Apple Pay or Google Pay. And we do use a lot QR codes. So we scan a QR code and you pay with your wallet, maybe a crypto wallet, maybe the Mercado Pago wallet, but we use a lot of payments using QR codes. So digital payments are very strong here in Argentina. We're very used to that.
Yeah, and so is there any actual stablecoin payments happening on the ground floor there when it comes to like POS systems, like point of sale systems? Are they accepting stablecoins in any capacity? I've seen sometimes I see a little sign of like USDT or BTC accepted here at out of kind of a random coffee shop or something. What's kind of been the adoption with regards to accepting blockchain-based payments?
I would say that is just starting. Yeah. Today we have this sort of shortcut, which is crypto wallets that allow you to hold your assets in crypto assets, whichever BTC, ETH, USDT, USDC, whatever. And you can go and do a regular payment using a QR code or a credit card, and they do transform automatically your crypto assets to the local currency. And that has become quite popular. I mean, nearly all of us using whichever crypto wallet use that type of service. Native crypto to crypto transfers is something that is just starting. It's not as popular. It's quite a niche thing. I would say sort of MVP style. But of course, what all of us hope is that is going to change real fast. And in my view, that should change in two ways. Of course, we have the crypto native users, which will allow to have USDT, USDC, and or BTC or whatever, and pay using their crypto asset to a crypto asset wallet. And I think that what we will start to see is financial services and fintech companies that use crypto railways because they're much more effective and safe than TradFi railways, but show the user sort of a TradFi Web2 interface. So maybe my 85-year-old mother doesn't need to get into the understanding of USDT, USDC, and whatever. She just has a wallet where she can save money in, and then she can go and pay for the groceries. And maybe that wallet and that fintech company is using crypto railways, but as a back end. Yeah, in the front end, the regular user doesn't even get to know if the dollars are USDT, USDC, crypto pesos, or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, that the latter point there is where a lot of the, I think, players are trying to get to, right? Because at some point, you just want to stick to the same thing that you've been doing as a consumer, but just have a better experience and a better product. And so that's going to take time to get to where like the Visas and the Stripes and the Mercado Libres of the world, accept the stablecoin settlement. And then once that happens, then the adoption should really, really pick up.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I think that the complex thing about crypto is that we have this sort of the crypto assets, the native crypto assets, BTC, ETH, and all of the rest. You need to sort of be inside the thing to understand them, yeah? To say, okay, I'm going to buy BTC. That's an investment decision. But regular folks doing everyday shopping, everyday grocerying, and whatever, maybe they're not willing to spend their time in understanding that type of thing. They just want a means in order to do their financial transactions to keep on with their everyday life. And I think that this type of offering where you abstract the sort of the crypto backend, which is again much more effective and safe, definitely has a place in the market. Because just to give you a small example, we in Argentina, when you transfer money from one bank to another, there's this sort of union of banks which created a company which is called Coelza, which is basically a sort of a compensation arena in which if I send money to that bank and the other people send the money to the bank and the other bank goes to, they sort of keep that thing going on and transfers money between bank accounts of all the banks in Argentina. I am positive that 99% of people using that system don't know that that system even exists. And that's okay. We are kind of financial sort of crypto nerds, of course, do know about that. But I mean, most people don't need to understand that. And I think that that's okay.
I totally agree. Diego, I'd like to understand a bit of the work that you guys have been doing with human ID and this kind of decentralized ID system in Mexico. You guys have recently launched one of the first large-scale decentralized ID systems. How'd that process happen? What was the story behind that? And, in the lens of stable coins, of payments, of this kind of onboarding users on chain, what does that really mean for the Mexican people?
That's a very good question. Thanks. In our view, all of the world transactions of trust and value is one of those, will be dominated by crypto railways. Today, we have different railways for different type of things that we need to preserve and trust. So we have one railway for doing money transactions, one railway for doing sort of, I don't know, whichever document, contract, or thing that we need to sign in order to sign a contract, or owning a car, owning a house, or whatever. When the financial system, and that is happening right now, goes into crypto railways, and the trust system, I mean, the first thing that you need to trust on is who you are, your ID, goes into crypto railway, the interoperation and the effectiveness and the reducement of friction that we will have will be immense. So it makes every sense to say, hey, everything should be put down on crypto railways. You should be able of verifying identities of human beings, of things, of cars, boats, houses, and whatever, using crypto railways and saying, hey, this issuer, whoever that is, this big company, this small company, this national state, this subnational state, issued this holder a credential. And I should be able of verifying that very safely, very cheaply, and that will change the way we work. And we're really proud about the Nuevo León thing. We'll be doing some big announcements during Dev Connect regarding other subnational big jurisdictions adopting this type of systems. We use open source protocols. We have a chain, a layer 2 chain based on Ethrex client developed by Lambda class, which is using aligned layer technology to reduce costs and make it much more effective. And we use the Quark ID protocol, which is an open source protocol for identity. So if we pack all of these together and we offer this type of solutions to governments, to big institutions, and we're really happy because we're gaining very big adoption. We're gaining big traction. We have a huge pipeline. And the most important thing in my point of view is that, of course, it's important that governments issue their sort of driver's licenses, citizens' credentials, birth certificates, and so on blockchain. But the most important thing is that creates a local ecosystem and then a regional ecosystem. What I mean is, just to give an example, if you have a shop, I don't know, whatever, a restaurant, a gym, if you own a building, and you're able to sort of leveraging what the government does and say, hey, I am able to verifying this guy's identity, just showing a QR code, yeah, or tapping an NFC chip, and instantly, with no cost, I get that verification ready. Well, that is so different than what we do now. Today in Argentina, you will see it's very common that when you need to enter a building or whatever, say, hey, do you have an ID? And I've seen this in the States, in Europe, in every place. Do you have an ID? Yeah, I do. Okay, show me your ID, and you show your ID. And people start maybe taking notes in a computer. That doesn't make sense today. Of course, we need the adoption, but it's so weird. We have an ID, maybe that even is digital or not, but I mean, you have a piece of plastic, and then you have a computer, and you have a human interface transcribing things from an ID to a computer. That's crazy. We should be able of verifying that instantly. States have a big role to play there because they are the most important credential issuer in every society, starting from driver's licenses, passports, national IDs, and whatever. And the whole ecosystem may and will take advantage of that.
Yeah, I mean, I think for sure. And I think some of these nation states are getting in their own way, right? Like you've called verifiable privacy the foundation for human freedom. But when it comes to these kind of governments who don't want to let go of control, it's kind of hard to make this balance. So I'm curious, how do you make that message resonate with the governments that still feel or still fear this digital age, or they fear this decentralization kind of mindset? How do you make that message stick with some of the people who are some of the most powerful in the world?
Well, I think that we all should do this kind of crusade, because people are not so, and I published an article, I think it was last week, regarding this. Digital identity is an extremely powerful tool, but it can be used so wrongly if you do it bad, so wrongly. Digital identity is like a hammer. If you need to put down a nail, it's an amazing tool, but you can use a hammer to kill someone. So it's very, 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 very dangerous. Centralized digital ID systems are everything that's bad. They are a digital cage in which every movement that we do will be monitored. You could suffer censorship. It's kind of a, I don't know, a Nazi-like state. And the argument that, hey, we want to do this in this way to prevent whatever crime or is a bad decision. It's a bad decision. It would be the same as saying, hey, I'm going to install a camera in every bedroom and every private home in order to prevent a potential crime. Maybe you do get some crime lower down, but that is not the way to go, and we wouldn't be able of allowing this kind of big brother state. Same thing happened with identity. I think that there are a lot of amazing institutions doing a lot of great work in order to promote this idea of, hey guys, you must not do a centralized identity and monitor everything that society does that is bad. And we have very important players in Latin America. We have two development banks, the IDB and the CAF, which is CAF, Corporación Andina de Fomento, which are really struggling moving towards this. We have UN and several institutions sort of promoting this good way of doing things. And several governments are starting to understand it. For me, it's not something that is yet defined, and we need to keep on working really hard in order to promote this idea. And for me, that is very important. And the other thing that I think that we need to, all of us, struggle together is, hey guys, please abort the private blockchains initiative. I'm going to pick up an EVM and I'm going to do a private permission blockchain which I control. No, man. That is the intranet of the 90s. It's not the way to go. We need to rely on Ethereum's economic security. We have 100,000 plus nodes verifying our transactions. We have billions of dollars securitizing the information that's inside. But we need a public blockchain in order to avoid censorship, in order to avoid people controlling us. And I think that tendency today is much more smaller, but it's still there, and we need to fight it.
Yeah, I totally agree, man. I mean, it's part of this whole return to fundamentals ethos that we've been trying to really iron into people's minds and ingrain into the industry. And I think that really you're capturing a lot of that today. Diego, as we kind of come to a close, any final remarks for those coming to Buenos Aires, coming to your lovely country? How will you welcome them? Any big events that you are hosting, or that, where can we find you in the city?
Well, we hired this amazing venue just in front of Debt Connect with Lambda and Ergodic Group, and we're doing a bunch of events there. We have an amazing GOP-free summit, which is people from governments all over the region that are coming precisely to a crypto event, which is something I wouldn't say it's the first time, but it's something really interesting to see. And there are a bunch of events going on there. The amount of side events that we have is, it would be so hard to really choose which event to go. Other people are doing amazing events and so on. My recommendation is do not eat for the last 4 or 5 days. Eat very little. You have amazing food here, amazing food. You don't need to bring anything. Come here and try wine. Wine is a very special thing in Argentina. Don't forget about trying mate, which is a very local drink that we have in Argentina. I will show it to you. This thing over here. Yeah.
Yes.
We do that all the time. Yeah. Come and try mate, which is this very, very awkward thing. And my last recommendation is, I know that coming to Argentina from the States, from Asia, from Europe, is a long trip. So my recommendation is, Argentina is a big and beautiful country. Make your stay as long as possible. Go to Patagonia, go to Salta and the northern part of Argentina, which is amazing. Go to Iguazu Falls, which is out of this world. There are lots of things to do, and we're really so happy to have you all guys here next week.
Beautiful. Diego, thank you for your time. Thanks for being a part of the Rollup. We'll see you there. We are hosting an event at that space with Lambda on the 18th. So looking forward to that, man.
We'll be there. Bye-bye, Andy.
Bye, Diego. All right, guys, we'll be right back and close this out. See you. All righty, guys. Thank you for being here. See you guys tomorrow, Wednesday, for another show. We got three Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then we're going to Buenos Aires, and we're going to be live from BA. We'll kind of tease more about that and talk more about that tomorrow into the end of the week. Thank you for being here, guys. Thanks for listening to the rants, the awesome guests. Stay safe, stay strong, return to fundamentals. See you guys later.